Hi, folks. Bob Mannery here. You're listening to A2D Radio, real sports talk radio for the fans, by the fans, no agenda. These guys are the best in the business. Hashtag it. No notes.
Welcome, everybody. This is A2D Radio. We have a little special interview for you coming to you today. Little 2 p.m. special, little brunchish, if you want to call it. We got a big round table of guys here: Steve Reichel, Jake Friel, Michael Chromiak, and our special guest, the great, invincible Vince Papale joins us today, family. So we're going to have Vince on. We're going to be asking him a ton of questions. You guys can ask him questions as well, and we're going to find out what he's up to. And we just got some news on his son today that we're going to want you guys to hear as well, which is some great news, because we were talking about, we weren't sure if he was playing, if he got signed somewhere. So that's some great news today as well. We are brought to you every show by our doc, Make Him Yours. That's Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton locations. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. Our topics today: what is your favorite non-Eagles sports memory? What Eagles matchup are you most intrigued by this coming season? And obviously we have Vince Papale on with us now, and it ties into our poll question. The Eagles will make the playoffs for a fourth straight year. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. That's where we're live at. And everywhere you guys get your podcast, you can find us as well. Boys, Vince, it's an honor to have you on. I mean, I know Chrome was just watching Invincible before the show. I caught up on about an hour, even though I haven't seen it a million times, but caught up probably watched about an hour of it before the show as well. So it's exciting to have you on. And I know I got some questions for you and the boys, but the first question I want to ask you is, and I think this speaks for everybody, is what I noticed out of the last 5 games last year from Carson Wentz was some big-time leadership. I think we all saw a locker room rally around the guy, and we saw when we watched the Amazon series about him, and we saw a little inside. And from you having obviously more insight than we do, from outsiders, it looked like the guy really, that locker room rallied around. The young players bought into him and winning with practice squad guys and guys like that, and go on the run they went on. It looks like the locker room is rallied around him, and now obviously we draft a quarterback in the second round. And just your thoughts on Carson and him growing year in, year out as the leader of this football team.
Well, it's pretty amazing because, and that's a great question, with Carson. And I know, first of all, I've got a great relationship. I'll start with that with Coach Doug Peterson. I've known Doug from his playing days as an Eagle player, and actually was with him when he was cut and asked to go and play elsewhere. And we as his family have grown up, and I've sort of known Doug and seen him evolve as a coach, and sort of just being around him, knowing how he feels about Carson and the tremendous trust and respect that he has for Carson Wentz. And I'll sort of preface it with that. Carson, I don't know all that well. I just know from what I perceive. Of course, I know that that big piece that came out last year, the year before, and they were talking about Carson and his jealousy and his lack of leadership. I didn't buy it. I didn't see it. I didn't feel it. It's just something that I think that maybe was just a little bit overhyped. And if anything, and he was with his relationship, of course, with Nick, and now he's running the show, and you could just see him evolve once he got his health back. It's very difficult sometimes to be a leader when you're injured, and going back just when he was the man when he was at North Dakota State. And my son, Vinny, you alluded to Vinny. We'll talk about that later. Vinny played for University of Delaware. They played at North Dakota State. I went to North Dakota State for that game when they played there, and you walked in everywhere, and everywhere was Carson Wentz. I mean, he is an absolute icon out there. So all of a sudden, he's gone from North Dakota State, where he is the man, and he's coming into Philadelphia, even though he's the quarterback. He's just another guy, and it's sort of like it's like the show me state, prove it, show us what you got. And man, he really came through, and he got us pretty much into the Super Bowl. And he took that hit because he was laying it out for the team against the Rams, and he gets injured. Then Nick comes in and finishes the deal. But you can't take away from the fact how many games that he won for us, and won for them, and won for his teammates. And I think he got the respect of all his teammates on how tough he is. And then Nick is gone, and now Carson doesn't have to worry about looking over his shoulder. Not that he ever had to do that, but every once in a while, if you're not 100%. Those kinds of things can happen, and then the criticism, he didn't come from a big town, so you get that kind of criticism coming from the major press. It's got to pierce the armor just a little bit. And then finally he got healthy and everything was going good. And then Clowney clocks him and cheap shots him and he gets knocked out again. And then now, he gets the big contract, and of course they bring in the quarterback from Alabama. And there's all kinds of speculation. Who knows? Is it because the Eagles don't trust the fact that he's going to be able to get through the season? Do they think that the draft pick is going to beat him out? I don't think they think that. Is he an insurance policy? Who knows? We don't know that. The time will tell. Right now we probably have without a doubt, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Of course, who's healthy and with a backup that once he matures and learns the game, it's going to be fun to watch him grow. So I'll just sort of see what happens, and see how he gets to training camp, and he's got to prove himself and be able to read defenses, and it's going to be a whole different ball game than the not the run and shoot they were running, just the option, the RPO, the run pass option. So it's a whole different ballgame. He's got to become acclimated to it and see defenses like he's never seen before. So it'll be fun to watch him grow. But are we going to? Hopefully, we'll get a chance to watch him grow if we get this season off this year.
Yeah, that's the big question. Did we get the season off this year? But no, I mean, I agree with everything you said. And the biggest thing you said is hard to be a leader if you're not on the field. That's the biggest thing. And last year, he was able to get the stigma off of him of again, he doesn't play a full season, plays a full season, rallies guys around him, and then obviously gets hurt the way he did, which obviously ended our season as well. But a kid that I have a ton of confidence in. I believe he can stay healthy. I believe he's an MVP caliber player in this league when healthy, and I think they put some pieces around him to hopefully get back to that 2017 form with weapons. I know the other guys have questions for you. So, boys, anyone of you three want to go? Go ahead.
Well, I was just waving to Vinny, by the way, as you guys are coming, as you guys are talking. So he actually just got done training. He trains down in Boca.
Well, tell him congrats.
All right, guys.
Tell him congrats.
Yeah.
Promise.
Yeah, tell him congrats.
Well, tell Vinny we said what's up, man.
All right. The guys from South Jersey here, Vin, I'm on a podcast, are all saying congratulations to you. Thank you. Yep, he says thank you. He's walking out of the house with two sawhorses, so something's going on. I know what it is. He just got a surfboard. That's what it is.
There you go. Well, when he gets situated and get back up here, let's get him on. We'll talk some football with Vinny Jr. too. When he gets
that would be cool.
situated, anyways.
All right, that sounds great. Yeah, he's coming back up after Memorial Day. So.
But now, like with this past season, like there was a whole lot of stuff going on. We know that there was question of injuries with this, and a lot of people were questioning whether Alshon was running to the media and stuff like that. You've been around teams, you've been around locker room. What were your general thoughts when all that stuff was going on?
Well, I heard about that later on after the season was over, and it just really disturbed me. And knowing Alshon, the way I've gotten to know him, not intimately, we're a great friendly relationship, but just the respect that I've had for him. I don't really believe that. I don't think he was smoking, and I think the guy was hurt. And it's as simple as that. And maybe a little bit frustrated. So you got your key quarterback, and all kinds of things settle in. And then you had Deshaun. I think with Deshaun, he should have had that core surgery done by Vincera down there with Dr. Myers. He should have had that as soon as they found out he had it. Mm-hmm. And because he could have been available and ready for the playoffs if he had done that. How do I know that? Well, that's the surgery that Vinny went through. that knocked him out of the season because coming out of the University of Delaware, he had the sports tournament. And now he's totally healed, and I know what the timetable was. And there were some other players on the team that had gone through that same process. You can research and see who they were, but they got back, and Zach was one of them. He got back within 6 or 7, 8 weeks. And it would have been nice to have him because it wasn't that person to stretch the field. They were losing confidence in 13, So, but darn if the kid didn't come through for us in the Super Bowl. He made 2 or 3 or 4 possession receptions that kept drives alive that actually helped win the game. Mm-hmm. And if you talk about a co-MVP, I would have put him as one of those candidates. But he didn't perform up to his potential. And then you got a bunch of guys coming off the practice squad that are trying to fit themselves into the pro game. It was a mess. Running back situation, was almost by committee. And, injuries. They never, in the Super Bowl year, they always had the philosophy, Doug had the philosophy, next man up. Well, next man up, next man up, next man up. It's like, wow, it was just one after the other after the other. So let's hope it's all behind us and get through that. And, all the speculation, let's just put it aside. You're going to hear the noise your professional athletes expect it. Get over it and play ball. That's all.
Yeah, and I think all the credit goes to Doug Peterson. He continues to keep his locker room year.
Amazing.
It's so hard to go to the playoffs year in, year out. And better off go to the playoffs after you're dealing with major injuries year in, year out. And to go there 3 consecutive seasons. And we know how hard it is to go back to the playoffs the year after you win a Super Bowl or just go to one period. And to be able to go back to the dance they went to in 2018. And then last year, again, with tons of injuries again, you go back again. To me, guys, easily top 3 head coach in football. I think from the outside, it looks like every guy will run through a wall for that guy. And when you have players believe in a coach that much, I think that's the result you get. And I think it goes back to a guy you played for, Dick Vermeil. And that's going to be one of the I ask in a minute, but I know Chrome and Jake have some. So go ahead, guys.
Just a quick, basically just building off what Tom said regarding to Dick Vermeil. Obviously, you were, you went to the team basically just as a walk-on per se. But what went through your head when you got that phone call from the Eagles? Obviously, just being a walk-on and training with the team, telling you that you actually are a Philadelphia Eagle.
Well, that actually happened on the field. And if you watched the movie, the coolest thing I think was getting the tryout. When my name eventually was on the list. When they said my name was on the list, it was on the list. Because they had a list of guys that they had heard about, and so but Coach Vermeil didn't know who I was. Jimmy Murray, the general manager, did. When I walked on the field for the first time, he had no idea that I was a track guy with no college football experience, 30 years old, from St. Joe's, Glen Olden, Pennsylvania. Interborough High School. He didn't know that. So the way I actually found out that I made the team, the way it was constructed in the movie is, they say, okay, coach wants to see it, but they didn't. The Turk didn't say the magic words, and you know what the magic words are, right? Bring your playbook.
Yeah.
But in reality, in the locker room, when the coach walked toward me, and I thought for sure that I was going to be the guy that was going to be cut. And this was right after training camp was over. Now we're training at the vet. We're getting ready to play the Cowboys for the first game. And in reality, so the guy's coming to me, the Turk's coming to me, and I'm just looking at him, and shoot, and I'm ready to hand my playbook to him, and he just started laughing, and he points to another guy over beside me. It was Don Zimmerman, the kid from Mississippi, who was a veteran, and he says, "Coach wants to see you. Bring your playbook." So, man, oh man, I'm sitting there in the locker. I got Harold Carmichael next to me. I got Charlie Smith next to me on the other side, and here I am, and I'm trying not to get real excited, but nobody's told me if I made the team yet. And I get out onto the field, and we're stretching, and I'm looking up. It's the vet, and the vet, as you guys remember, was a multi-purpose stadium set up for baseball as well. And now we're training, and this is the end of the summer. We're in the right field outfield, and it's set up for baseball, the field. And we're stretching, and I'm looking up, and I'm saying, "Oh man, there's my season tickets. If the boys could only see me now." And then Coach Vermeil walks over, And he looked down at me and he started laughing. And he just had this impish smile on his face. And I says, oh, shit. He's going to cut me right now in front of everybody. Here I go, and he just says, and he reached down, he said, congratulations, old man. He says, you're a Philadelphia Eagle. Welcome to the team. Wow. And I went out of my mind.
Wow.
And I said, Coach, can I make a phone call? And he said, you got to have a press conference? I said, no. I said, and he knew my dad because my dad he worked at Westinghouse and he was at every practice at training camp in Widener, which was in Chester. If he was working, he came right from work to go to the camp. And I said, I got to call my dad. And they said, go ahead. He said, go ahead. So I went into the Phillies locker room, and right behind the locker room, I knew there was a payphone because we always trained there. And I got a collect call, and I got the shop steward, and I said, Slim, and this guy's right out of Central Casting. I said, Slim, tell Kingy, my dad's nickname, that his little boy's a Philadelphia Eagle. And in the background, you could hear everybody going crazy. But Rudy, when Rudy made the team, and when there was something similar happened. So what they did is they called that a Rudy moment. So they couldn't use that scene. So they created the scene.
Oh, okay.
And I pushed the book across, and he says, you might want to hold on to that for a couple of months. Welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's awesome.
And so they created that scene, which, when I watched it Friday night with some of my boys down here, I had a tear in my eye. It was pretty special. They did a great job reenacting that, but they called it a Rudy moment. Rudy, God bless you. Love you, man. But, that's how it happened. And this was the NFL, not the NCAA.
Right.
So.
Vince, thanks for joining us, by the way, brother. Quick question here. So kind of piggybacking off of the relationship with Dick Vermeil, it seemed like you guys really kind of bonded. I mean, obviously it's a very unusual circumstance, him coming in and holding open tryouts. The Eagles were in a flux at that point. As a fan. So, kind of coming in and being given that opportunity and being the guy to come out on top at the end of that. And being able to experience 3 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. Can you talk about your relationship with Dick at that time and how maybe it continues to this day?
Well, it was a great relationship to start off with, and it was a great relationship to finish, because he gave me the opportunity of a lifetime. When I made the team, when I was signed onto the team, keep in mind, the movie had it like it was a 4-day gap between the free agent tryout to the training camp, which started right before the 4th of July in '76, believe it or not. It was an 8-week training camp with 6 preseason games, which was pretty brutal. I trained every day starting at 9 o'clock, was one of the first guys into the locker room along with Dennis Franks. And I trained every day with Roman Gabriel, Mike Schmidt, Steve Carlton, because we shared the same locker room. And that our strength coach was the conditioning coach for the Phillies as well. His name was Gus Hoffman. So Vermeil saw me there every day. He never really said anything, and I was never coached. You weren't allowed to coach, but I'd be out there with Gabe the whole time. He'd be throwing stuff to me, tell me about how to run routes. There was nobody else, no other wide receivers, just me and Denny Franks and a few other guys in the offseason. So Coach got to see my work ethic every day. But when I got to training camp, and he just says, look, man, you got a couple of weeks to prove yourself. They brought the rookies in, and I kicked ass. I mean, these kids are coming in, and I'm a 30-year-old guy, and I was just chewing these 22, 23-year-old kids up. And then when the veterans came in, that was it. And I just fell apart because I was in all of them. I was their fan. I was a season ticket holder. Harold Carmichael, Bill Berge, John Bunning, and so I was a little bit of all, and I pulled back, and then Coach actually pulled me into the locker room. He says, hey, listen, basically that scene after the Cowboys game was, I stuck my neck out for you. He basically gave me that same speech. I stuck my neck out for you, gave you a contract. You better perform. I'm going to give you another couple of weeks and make it happen. And he says, why are these guys your heroes? I said, well, I'm an Eagle fan from way back. And he says, what, they were 2-12 last year, or 4-12? Yeah, we had a 16-game schedule, no, 12-game schedule, 2-12, 14 games, and 2-12, and too many hits, and so anyway, he gave me the impetus, and he says, you're not going to go anywhere. I'm going to give you a chance to prove yourself, and that's when I just got my confidence back. Decided to be aggressive against a veteran as I would against one of these kids coming in from nowhere, and he liked what I saw. Here's what the connection was. His father, he had Italian background. I did too. My dad, his mom. He was a school teacher coach. I was a school teacher coach. His dad was a mechanic. My father was a mechanic. He was a school teacher. I was a school teacher. He was a coach. I was a coach. All those things blended together, and tremendous respect for each other. And that's why at the end of the big play in the movie, just that nod, that's all you had to do. We had that mutual respect for each other. And he wanted me to make the team in the worst way, but I had to prove myself. And it's funny because I talked to Bergie and Jaws and not Jaws wasn't there then, but Carmichael and Frankie Lemaster, John Bunning. And they said, we were rooting for you like heck because some of the guys that you were banging around, we really didn't think were giving us 100%. And we were hoping you'd make the team, but we didn't want to say anything. You had to prove yourself because they thought I was writing a book or maybe a newspaper reporters, that sort of thing.
Vince, another question I have for you ties into the movie. Obviously, was the notoriety from the movie what you expected? Obviously, was it more or less? I think we know the answer to it, but we just wanted to hear it from you.
I wasn't ready for it. That's for darn sure. You know, and the popularity of the movie, we ran #1 in the box office for a couple of weeks, and just the other day, and Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and just the reaction of the movie from around the country, around the world, and the reaction that I get from around the world, especially from servicemen and for law enforcement, from first responders, and that they say they respect me, and here I am. I just find them all to be heroes of mine. And I used to travel around the country and the world in a plane speaking for a living, but you know you have to make adjustments with all that's going on, and but that's not happening. But I would go into any one city, even a city like Dallas, should find out that 60-70% of the people that I'd be talking to had seen the movie, and it gives me that kind of thing to relate. Here's what it's about. See, the reason the movie relates, and aside from the fact that Mark Wahlberg is just so popular and he's so fabulous and did a great job, it relates to people's lives because everybody has gone through what I've gone through. Maybe not in the football sense, obviously athletic sense, but in the metaphoric sense. You know, we've all been told we weren't good enough by somebody that meant a lot to us. You know, the note. You know, we're all good. You know, we've all had our doubters when we've had our dreams. We've all had our hope dashed by us. You know, it's happening right now with what's going on with the COVID-19. So, and everybody's being asked that was going through and in a beautiful life, and you know, the economy is the best it's ever been, and everything is so funky, and there's always a pot at the end of the rainbow. Boom, it's all gone, and they're being asked to socially distance and be inside and change everything and make the ultimate adjustment to stay away from people. And it's been tough. And now the movie, more than anything, is more popular because of that. Because, you know, hopefully they said it in '76, it gave hope. And right now I'm trying to be that messenger and be the guy that say, hey, if this guy can do it, we can do it. And you can get through I always say, if I can get through an 8-week Dick Vermeil training camp, I can get through anything. So we're in 7 weeks right now, guys. 8 weeks. I'm going back up, and you'll be seeing me. You'll be seeing me at PJ Wellhands right there on Route 70 in Cherry Hills, just having a cold. You know it.
Let's go.
I love it.
That's my dream, either there or go up to Chickies and Pete's in Marlton, you know, and be with my friend Petey. But that's it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go one of those places and sit at a bar and have a Corona, man. That's it. Then I know I'm home.
Yeah,
I love it.
Long overdue right now, it feels like. But no,
yeah, for sure.
The movie and your story relates. You're right. It relates to everybody. You know, it relates to everybody. I mean, we're especially not only just here in Philadelphia, where we're diehards and we live and breathe it, but even outside, like, you know, the ability that you can do anything if you gotta be good at something a little bit too, but you can do anything
it helps.
if you're willing to put the work in. And, you know, we talk about it all the time just in life. If you're willing to put the work in and you're willing to be consistent with your workouts or whatever you're doing, and you're going to put it in every day and you're going to do a little bit more than the guy across from you, you're going to get the results you're looking for. And I think that relates to any line of work, anything you're doing, just life. And it's such a positive message. And one of my top 5 movies of all time. Top 5. My top 5.
And I have to say today too, Vince, just kind of watching it back, you know, I mean, first of all, it's shocking that it's already 14 years old. It feels so, and it's one of those movies. It feels like it never ages. It stays so current all the time because of the message. But I mean, watching it again this morning, it's like I almost got like you know, those feelings of when you watch Rocky, especially, you know, my family's all South Philadelphia.
Same.
So seeing those, you know, the scenes and the little things, like you say, it's not Eagles, it's Eagles. And those little nuances of the movie and seeing kind of where you came from, it's very inspiring, like Iraqi was for especially people like us from, the South Philadelphia area. And kind of to follow up on that, I think it was kind of displayed in the movie, but can you kind of talk about, obviously you became a representation at that time in 76 of those people of your neighborhood, of your friends, with all the struggles and stuff they were going on. So can you kind of talk about, those moments with your friends and those people that, were a part of your life, even beyond your father, of I'm a Philadelphia Eagle, a guy in the neighborhood is going to be stepping on Veterans Stadium field. Can you talk about what that was like for your buddies?
Yeah, that was funny because Tommy in the movie, Tommy in that one scene outside of the bar, which is if you're a Philly guy, that scene was shot right outside the Rosewood Bar at Broad and Shunk, and Rosewood, and I actually chose that spot because I have a house just right around the corner from it, and so the guys that you saw, they were guys I had, my friends Tommy, Petey, and Johnny. They're fictional names, but the one guy, Johnny, was actually a friend of mine that when I was a season ticket holder with the Eagles at Franklin Field, believe it or not, when I'm at St. Joe's, what was the movie with, where the Red Sox, when they got the tickets, and it was the Red Sox were making their climb. When we got our season tickets, we would sit on our step and just go through the games. We look at them and say, wow. And I'd go down to Schuylkill Expressway and I'd see the Eagles in training camp right there on River Field, right outside of Franklin Field. And I always sing the song, "See You in September." I mean, that's the kind of fan that I was. And these are the kinds of fans that we were. And those guys were all there with me. And then Johnny, he just went south and he still went south. But, the other guy, Tommy and Petey, the real names were Bill and Bill. Was Chuck and Bill. And they're still my closest of friends. And Sam, all the guys I went Interborough High School at Delaware County, were all together at the same time. The biggest thing, and here's what I did, because I wanted to make sure that these guys didn't lose me. Once I got up there and I became the Eagle, I became an Eagle. And I went after I had made the team and the Phillies were playing, and I got tickets. The Phillies gave me 12 tickets, and I invited all my buddies from my senior year in high school that I played high school football with to go to the Phillies game. And then afterwards we went to Cousin's Little Italy and an Italian restaurant, and I took them all out to dinner just to let them see what my life was like and let them know that, hey, I'm still part of it. Mm-hmm. And so that was it. And I think by doing that, that kept that friendship. And I'm just Vince now, and with Gabby and Vinny, I'm just their dad, I'm the knucklehead that they have to teach how to do all the fun. That was, off before we came in. I'm all black and blue from all the cheap shots they take from them, which is so much fun. I'm just a dad, and that's what I want to be. It's been the most incredible experience. The reaction, of course, in Philadelphia and Delaware County is just beyond. And I'm just so humbled by it. I come from a mother and father that never got beyond the 8th grade. My father was a pig farmer, and my mother worked. My mother was actually a great athlete. She worked on the assembly lines during World War II, and that's where I come from. And from big families, and I'm so lucky, and I have a lot of cousins, and everybody was there for me. And my surrogate family is the Interbrook students and the kids that I coached and played with.
Vince, when did you feel like you belonged in the league? Was it the first day, or was it the first time you hit somebody and you felt like, hey, I belong here?
Yeah, no, in the Cowboys game that they had portrayed in that play when I got wiped out by Andy Wright, Randy White. I'm sorry. When I got wiped out there, it seemed, they said the deer in the headlight kind of syndrome. It wasn't so much that. It was, it might have been the deer in the headlights, but it was just I was on the big stage, and I just wasn't ready for all the stuff that was going on around me, and I was trying to think too much instead of react. And once I started reacting to things that were going on, like I was doing in the preseason, and one of the reasons I made the team is because I led the team in receptions, and I could read defenses like no other receiver there. Don't ask me how, but I could do that. It was just that sight adjustment, the audible, all those kind of things that we had between me and the quarterback. We made all those adjustments. I didn't make the adjustment on that first play, but eventually in the second half, I gathered my strength, and I'm saying, if I get one more game, I know I can be better than this. And then coach gave me the Giants game, and as you know, that's the one. And that's when I knew. That's when I knew I belonged. And when the teammates, and then I got invited to my first team party that night, and I sat there and had a beer with Roman Gabriel and Bill Berge. I said, "This is real, man. This is real." And that was as good as it got. And from that point on, guys started giving me little tips. And next year, I got voted captain of the team. Next year was man of the year. And then my fourth year, I actually got 4 years credit. I blew both of my shoulders out, being stupid, you know. But hey, that was just being me. So it's what it is.
Kramer, do you have another one?
Well, I want to ask a question about the current team, but either of the other two guys have a question regarding Vince's career here?
Yeah, my one question for you, Vince. Obviously, when you were in the WFL for a short stint and then coming into the NFL, what was that transition like, or what was the biggest transition going from the WFL to the NFL?
Well, obviously, everybody that I played for in the when I got to the NFL, they were all NFL players. Obviously, the WFL were some former NFL players, you know, and we had on our team Tim Rostovich, but the World Football League was a league that Zonka Kick and Warfield defected to, and that was down there in Memphis. And you know, I actually caught the first pass reception in the World Football League from an absolute classic by the name of Jesus. I just had it right there on the tip of my tongue, the quarterback. But anyway, he was King Corcoran, right? King Corcoran, right? And he was a semi-pro sensation up there in the Pottstown Firebirds, and you know, we all knew the Pottstown Firebirds, and they actually had a Super Bowl special in that. So being in that sort of gave me the confidence, and I'd never been in a real football camp before, you know, other than high school. It gave me the experience of being in a football camp and preparing for a game. Because I never knew what game preparation was like, you know, the mental side, the cerebral side of the game, aside from the physical side, and how you take care of your body. So that was a tremendous experience for me. And when that league folded, that's when I went on a leave of absence from my teaching job at Interborough, and I was substitute teaching and bartending at Max's and a doorman with Denny Franks at Fran O'Brien's, and Franny Dunphy, you know, the coach from Temple, Franny and Penn. Franny Dunphy was our bartender back then. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. Right. Oh, yeah. And then, you know, I get the tryout, and I was very comfortable in the tryout because, you know, I had done the same thing in the World League. There were about 200 or 300 guys there as opposed to the 150 or 200 that were at the Eagles tryout. So that was a great preparation for me in terms of preparation and getting myself ready for what was going to happen, and, you know, double sessions and all that stuff. And I think if I hadn't had that, I'm not sure that I would have made it in the NFL. But I did have it. Wasn't mentioned in the movie. They didn't want to dilute the story. But, you know, that's the way it happened.
Steve, you want to go? Not sure if Steve's internet's good.
Yeah, I don't know what his internet situation is.
I'll ask the question for him if you can't hear him.
I hear you.
Maybe he
Yeah,
can't.
I think he's having issues.
All right, so
All right.
you want to know who is your let's see if I get this right. Who is your favorite Philadelphia underdog? I guess
Favorite Philadelphia underdog?
athlete. I guess besides
Athlete?
because you're
Who's
our
my
favorite.
favorite?
So, I mean, it's hard outside of it.
Well, I guess I don't know if he's an underdog anymore, but I'd like to say Jason Kersey. You know, I mean, he's the man. I don't know if I'd call him an underdog, but he's the guy. He's my favorite Philadelphia athlete of all time at this particular time, and he showed us what underdogs are all about. You know, and the dog, and it's sort of funny. You know, the parade. Who would ever forget that? That was beautiful. You know, his brother choreographed it out in Kansas City, but he did it. I mean, yeah, he just did it. Curse just did it. Yeah.
One of the all-time greatest speeches in Philadelphia history.
Oh, you kidding me? We're right in the front row. You know, the spit was coming out of his mouth. All this alumni. It was so cool. Yeah.
You know, at
Kelsey.
the time.
What am I? I'm Kersey. I'm saying Kelsey. Right.
Yeah.
At the time, Chase Utley had the best speech of all time in Philadelphia history. It was short, it was sweet, but it was to the point. But Jason Kelsey upped that one big time. Now,
Kelsey said, hold my beer real quick, Chase.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chase was pretty cool.
Let me ask you a question, Vince. You know, piggybacking again off of the whole Dick Vermeil relationship, it took Dick a long time to finally get his Super Bowl ring and I think find his place in history. And I think he was a guy who was probably a pretty underrated coach until his run in St. Louis. So can you tell us how you felt for Dick in terms of finally seeing him, get to the mecca of professional football and win the Super Bowl?
Oh, it was so phenomenal. I was part of the press corps when he retired, and he said he was burned out. I've had enough. And that was very disturbing. I couldn't believe that. And then he got into the broadcasting thing. And then we're thinking, why would he ever want to go back out there, to St. Louis? And then when you see the receivers and the team that he got, and doesn't he take and get another guy, and grab a quarterback that was stuck in, shelves, for crying out loud. And he brings him in as his quarterback, and he winds up winning a Super Bowl. Nobody could have been more proud and happier than us and everybody that played for Dick Vermeil. When he got there, he was a coach's coach and he was a player's coach. When he first came with the Philadelphia Eagles, he'd be the first to say it was autonomous, and autonomy at that particular time ruled. And he once he started to listen to his ball players and his assistant coaches and not rely so much on analytics because he was one of the first guys in analytics. He had a guy from UCLA give these printouts that were like monstrous, and coach would go that, if you had 100 yards rushing per game, you had a 75% chance of winning. That's why he was always running on first down. I mean, analytics was a big part of it. But then he started to get the gut feeling, and then he started listening to his coaches and trust his coaches and trust his players. And then when he got that, and there was a rebellion, when he went out there to St. Louis, because he came so hard on these guys in the beginning of training camp that they all walked in and said, "Coach, you got to lighten up." And why did he listen to him? He was still firm, but he listened to him. He would have never done that back in that first year with us, but he did do it then. And as a result, he got the respect of his teammates. They respected him and trusted him. And if you don't have trust in that locker room between player to player and coach to player and coaches to player, you've got nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the great things. And that's why Doug Peterson is so popular, because he's trusted by his players. And no matter, it's just like Philly. Yeah, sure. Okay. I trust you. You're going to come off with that goofy play. Let's do it. Why not? It didn't work in practice, but the hell, let's do it in front of 60 million people on the biggest stage ever. That's trust.
So true, though. It's so true. You got the trust has to go for the guy next to you, the guy across from wherever, everybody in that locker room. And then it starts with the head coach. And, I don't think there's a guy in that locker room that would say they don't trust him or want to play for him. I mean, we see it. Next man up, no matter who it is, comes in and plays. And you got to give credit for everything that happened on the fly last year, especially for an offensive guy. All the ins and outs of different receivers, different running backs, and to be able to adjust and then cater a game plan then to fit these different guys, and then to still go win games. I don't care who you're beating. I don't care how many wins you're beating. You're beating NFL teams, and to be able to do that, listen, I can't give enough credit. I mean, you guys know how I feel about Doug Peterson. I mean, he's the best. I mean, I love Andy Reid, but to me, he's the best coach in to me right now in franchise history, just because I didn't get a chance. I was too young for Dick Vermeil to put him in that category. Mm-hmm. But again, Dick changed when you said he changed. He was able to adapt, and that's a big part of coaching too. To our poll question, Vince, I want to ask you this one: the Eagles will make the playoffs for the 4th straight year. You agree or disagree with that one?
Oh, yeah, of course I do. I think they're going to be in the playoffs every year, So I absolutely feel that. But, I trust them. I trust the coaches. I think they've made some real positive moves with regard to the coaches. It looks like they made sound moves in the draft, but you'll never know. You can't grade the draft until you see the guys perform in the regular season. I mean, you could say potentially this is what it is, but you can't ever see it. So, yeah, I have all the hopes in the world. And, when guys try to grade a schedule, unless you played in an NFL game, every opponent that you go against is the toughest opponent that you've ever faced. Mm-hmm. And, I don't care whether the team the year before was 4-12 or 12-4. They're still tough opponents, and they're hungry, and they want to knock your what off. And, and for anybody that says that, just because of the strength of schedule, I don't want to hear strength of schedule. Players don't want to hear strength of schedule. It's who you're up against that day. That's your opponent that you're going against. And, you were saying, and made a good point about, playing for the person next to you. I'm very proud of Vinny. I'll get it out of it now because Vinny signed with Montreal Alouettes of the Canadian Football League just last week. And it's been, it's out there. If you Google up Vinny, there's some really nice stuff. So very, very proud of him because of what he had to do in order to get there. But, he made the USA team as when he was at Bishop Eustace, when he was a senior at Bishop Eustace, played for USA. And when they got him up, and there was a press conference that they had, and it was in Dallas at AT&T Stadium, and it's in Dallas, and they gave him this placard and said, "Who do you play for? Fill it in," and he filled in the guy next to me. That's it. I mean, that's it. When you talk to the Navy SEALs, I've spoken to SEAL Team 6. Who do they fight? Next man up, the guy next to you, and that was always a mantra of Coach Peterson when they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. It was next man up. So I'm very positive about this season, and I saw one of the scrolls down there. Do I think that there's going to be a season this year? Hopefully, there's positive talk. It looks like it's going to be in front of empty stadiums, but let's see what happens. I hope they don't take it away from us. But it's the powers to be, and we just have to roll with it right now. That's all we can do.
Yep.
This is the way it's set, and we've got to follow the rules. It's like being a teammate, and we should all be together as a team.
Oh, preach.
Well, that's the coach. That's the coaching, and that's the coaching and teacher in me.
Vince, you touched on some of the wide receiver injuries last year. With Deshaun and Alshon. The Eagles made that a focal point this offseason. They went out and drafted Jalen Reagor, who is another guy like Deshaun who can stretch the field and gives you some insurance in terms of that, or an extra weapon to stretch the field if Deshaun stays healthy. And then, they went out and got a guy like a Marquise Goodwin. For me, talking about trust, with your coach and your quarterback, for a guy like Greg Ward to step in last year under those circumstances and become a number one and make plays that, now as a wide receiver 4 or 5, if everybody else is covered, Carson has built that rapport of trust with him. So to kind of round all those moves that they've done to address the wide receiving core, and this includes having guys like Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, do you feel like depth-wise and talent-wise, they have made enough moves to give Carson enough of protection to have weapons throughout this year?
I'm going to couch it by saying potentially.
Right.
And Coach Vermeil has the greatest saying is potential is the greatest waste out there. And potential is also a coach killer. And if you go to Vince Lombardi, he said it's something you ain't done yet. Well, none of the things these guys ain't done yet. They've not played an NFL game. But under the kinds of pressure that they're going to be under now, and the scrutiny they're going to be under right now, as top draft picks, as a number 1 draft pick, as a 3rd or 4th or 5th round, whatever it might be. So potentially it's there. And now, that potential has to be turned into reality. It's as simple as that. So to me, I'm a grizzled old veteran. I played every game injured. I didn't, I caught 1 ball, but I made a lot of hits. But, I know what it takes to survive out there. And these guys, here's how you survive. You can run a 4-3 all you want. Can you catch the ball? Can you read the defense? Can you find the open spot in the zone? Can you get up when you get when you get earholed by somebody that wants to take you out because you're a number 1 draft pick, and then you're going to become a target. Can all these things happen? Can you function through that? And if and when you can, then we'll see how it goes. And it'll take 3 or 4 games in order to figure that out. So, and I'm the ultimate optimist, and I believe in whatever Howie's doing. I believe in Doug 1,000%, and hopefully they're going to be able to pull it together.
Yeah, and the thing is right. You can have all the talent in the world, and potentially. I mean, last year on paper, we were coming into the season that we were the St. Louis Rams, the greatest show on grass. Nobody could stop us. No, look at this offense, and the weapons were there. Don't get me wrong, proven guys in Alshon and Deshaun, but injuries. So you're right.
Look at that first game.
Yeah, when you say potential is the greatest coach killer, that's so true. Because that's how coaches get canned. You come in with high expectations. We're going to win 10. We're going to win 12 games, and you win 6, and you're out of a job. I mean, that's a great line. I never heard that line before. It's phenomenal.
Yeah,
we've been through the dream team in this city too, so we know all about the potential on paper.
Right.
Don't we know? And I talk about it all the time when I get out and speak. And then I say, I said, but it's never too late to get into the game. And it's look what happened in the first game. And to Sean, oh my God, he's flying downfield. Next thing you know, he tries to get through the next game with the quarter injury, with what he had going on in his groin, and boom, he couldn't do it. And that's when they should have made the decision right then to just cut him and rehab him and have him back. They would have had him back right after the bye.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but who knows how you rehab.
So, you said Vinny went through that same healing process. So,
yes.
In your opinion now, from where Deshaun did decide to get surgery coming into training camp, are you, just from your experience of seeing it, do you feel confident that he should be 100% by the start of training camp this year?
Oh, no question about it. And absolutely, no question about it. He's 100%. The thing is, he's 100% physically. The question is he going to be 100% mentally? Mm-hmm. Is he going to let it go? Is he going to hit that extra gear that he needs to hit? Is he going to make that cut? Is he going to do the crossover? And use that groin as a pivot leg that's going to take him to that next to make that next cut. And that's the biggest thing. Physically, there's no question in my mind, because I know the guys that he trained with are the same guys that rehab Vinny back after he's coming back from the surgery. And I know that the athletic trainers at the Eagles are bar none one of the top that they've got there in the NFL. He's getting the best of the best. And if he worked his butt off like I know he did, because he wants to prove something. He really wants to show the city of Philadelphia that he can be the man again. And you see that if you're watching The Last Dance. What did you see when you're watching Michael Jordan? I mean, it's that fierce competitiveness inside, and they all have that. When you get to that level, you have that. Everybody has that. Some have it at different levels. And don't you think that Deshaun doesn't want to prove that he's not a fluke, that he's going to be able to do this? And no question in my mind that he's going to be back. So the thing is, that now he's been doing it because of COVID-19. Everything has to be away. So, but he should have before this all hit. He probably was pretty well rehabbed, and now it's just a matter of them going through their Zoom workouts and Zoom program. But he'll be ready. He'll be ready. I'm sure he'll be ready mentally.
Yeah,
absolutely will. I don't know if we still have Steve, but Jake, you got anything else for Vince?
Yeah, I do have one more question for Vince. Obviously, during your what was your favorite memory? Obviously, aside from like your first game and being told you were a Philadelphia Eagle, what was your favorite moment throughout those 3 years as an Eagle?
Well, I have three that and the fourth, the other one when I was in my preseason game against the Baltimore Colts at Baltimore Stadium. And I was being pulled out of the game, and I said, Coach, I want to get even with this guy. He cheap shotted me. I want to get even, and I got even, but I dislocated my shoulder, and I had a separated right shoulder. So that was the end of it. I would liken it to three. One was, of course, that first game against the Giants and the big hit that's immortalized with the movie. Another one was when I was cut from the team in my third year, and then brought back on the team. And Coach Vermeil introduced the special teams. And I was the last guy introduced. I will never forget the reaction from the crowd. And thirdly was a game against the Washington Redskins coming in undefeated. And I made a big hit similar to the hit I made in the Giants game. Mm-hmm. Made a big hit and forced a fumble. Denny Franks recovered it. They took a picture called The Last Laugh. It wound up in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and there's the book that we wrote about it.
That's awesome.
So I have three favorites, and I just sort of juggle them around. But every game was a favorite, especially at the Vet. It was such a unique place to play, to run through the ramps like I used to do in the off season. I would put 3 or 4 miles a day, and if it was snowing outside, I'd put 3 or 4 miles a day in my workout, just running through the ramps of the stadium. And we're going in, hanging out in the Phillies locker room. We're playing. We had a racquetball court there. We had a basketball court right between the Phillies and the Eagles locker rooms. So we'd all be together playing horse having a good time. It was just such a great time to be an athlete in Philadelphia. All the teams were coming up. We were all winning, and then to become friends with the Broad Street Bullies and, the Sixers guys, and Julius is there. I mean, what a time to play pro sports in Philadelphia. Nothing was better than that.
That's awesome.
I know I have my. I got my last question before we start talking about some of the stuff he's got coming up, and you guys finish your questions. So I have to ask: you've been a fan and a player at Veterans Stadium. Now, obviously, you haven't played at the Link, but you have been there as a fan. You've been around the field when the crowd is filled up, coming down on those teams. So we know how awesome and crazy that the Link can get. But honestly, is there anything in the world, any monster in the world, like a crowd in Veterans Stadium in that 700 level?
No, it was the best because I lived it. I was up there. It was absolutely insane. I sit now when I sit in a game. I actually, when I watch a game, I watch it in the Coach Peterson suite. So you don't get, if I sit in the stands, that's a great experience. I sit in the first half, actually with the players, with the coaches' wives and stuff and families. But and they sort of sequester us off because otherwise, it's just like crazy in the stands. But I've never experienced it on the field. But there's nothing like being in the vet and the crowd going crazy and some of the big plays and just going around. Just that big bowl, it just surrounded you and everybody going insane. And the fans, right behind our bench, were just about 15 or 20 feet behind us in the front row because we were on the first baseline of the vet. That's where our seats were. And nothing better than the vet, rats, cats, and all. So we love it.
Vince,
Yeah,
my first experience at the vet was a Monday night game with my father, 700 level, and a drunk guy falling down the steps. Probably hit about 15 of them. Got up bleeding and Right. That was a good starter for me.
Right.
That's
right. He should have been a special teamer.
I mean, you're the only guy who has the experience as a fan and as a player from the 700 level down to the field. It's insane to even think about that.
Yeah, they say that. It was pretty cool.
Right?
From in some of those stadiums you'd go to, to play in Chicago, to play in Soldier Field, to play in the Coliseum, to go to Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, all those multi-purpose stadiums, and San Diego was my first preseason game. To play down in Florida, the Orange Bowl, the original Orange Bowl, is where I actually had a great game in the preseason. That Vermeil saw me as a receiver and says, "We're going to keep this guy." He actually told the team after that preseason game against the Dolphins, he said, "This guy's going to make the team," which was pretty cool. So I've got so many great memories, and it broke my heart. I have one of the greatest videos. I wish I could find it. I took my kids. It was right before the Tampa game that we lost in the playoffs, and I have a video where before I took Abby and Vinny down there, and we took our bicycles. I threw them in the back of my Explorer. And we took bicycles, and I took them on a bicycle tour of Veterans Stadium through all the ramps and everything, and took them into the Phillies locker room, and the Eagles locker room was set up for the game. I took them into Tampa locker room, was set up for the game. And I have it all on video. It was one of the greatest experiences of a lifetime. I'm going to have to find it and post it. It'll be pretty cool. People will really appreciate that. It was fun.
Yeah, that's really
fun. I would love to see that.
Oh, I love the vet was the vet was special. There was nothing better than the vet. And Franklin Field, and it was so cool that we filmed all the pro scenes in the movie Invincible, right there behind me. Were filmed at Franklin Field, and they go into those locker rooms, the same locker room, the same urinal, the one that was, there's this one big trowel. I mean, it's wild. It's like cattle. Oh, memories, man. Go from a rough touch football game at Eddystone High School or whatever it was on a Sunday and go right and jump on a train from Sea Cane down to 30th Street Station and walk from 30th Street Station and and we'd always have a pint of blackberry brandy or something. By the time we got to Franklin Field, we were pretty well oiled. And then you go expecting them to lose, and they wouldn't disappoint us. They lost. So, and I'd be in my Cannon's Cafe or Max's, or I played for about 3 or 4 rough touch teams back then. It was just I could write a book just about that. It was so much fun. It's just pure, man. It was just pure. It was Philly. It was great.
So what do you got coming up? You were talking to us a little bit before we came on, and I want you to tell all the people out there some of the things you got coming up here in the future and what you're doing right now.
Well, I'm doing a lot of cyber stuff out there, that's for sure. If anybody's looking for somebody to try to fire them up, just go to my website, vincepapale.com, and it'll come right to me. And I'm watching, on the other side of this, I'm watching my kids walk back and forth. And I'm very proud of my daughter, Gabriella, a Syracuse grad. And she does all the live in-game entertainment for the 76ers, and was also chosen to be the stage manager by the NBA to run the NBA All-Star game, a lot of those events on stage. And so Gabby and I, she's pretty funny, has a great sense of humor. So we're just finishing up, coming up with a podcast called Gabbing with Invincible, every pun intended. And we're gonna take the the old school point of view with there goes vincepapale.com. Thank you. The old school point of view, and she's going to take the millennial side. And we're going to talk. We're going to talk to people about their passion. And one of the things, Mark's agreed to come on, and we're going to talk to Mark not about what it's like to be a great actor. How's it like to raise 2 daughters? And Coach Peterson's agreed to come on with us, and him and his wife Jeannie. We've known him for 20 years. Gabriella grew up with him, and we're going to talk about from her perspective, what it's like to be the wife of an NFL coach, and it just what your passion is. Guy lives next to me down here in Florida. John Bachman from Newsmax, what are his passions other than they used to play ball for Georgia, so I've got Navy SEALs coming on. We've got athletes. We've got people, The Bachelor, we've got all kinds of people coming on. And we just want to, like you guys, we just want to have fun for a few minutes and get the other side. And the side that's not written, the side that you won't see in Wikipedia. So that's my baby, Gabrielle. My wife, Janet, in reality, was a world-class gymnast. She was on USA World Gymnastics team during the Olympics in '72. She wasn't there because she was injured, but she was a gymnast and a diver, head gymnastics coach at Penn. Now a successful realtor, South Jersey, Janet Cantwell, along in Foster, Janet Cantwell Papale. And so Janet and I, we're teaming up. We just had a talk right before you came on about teaming up and doing some stuff as a not just as a husband and wife, but as a team. We are both coaches, both athletes at the highest level, her for USA and me with the NFL. So it'll be interesting, our perspective, and also, raising kids. And, it's not easy for my kids, Gabby and Vinny, to be the son and daughter of a guy they made a movie about. It's been rough sometimes. So, and we'll talk about those kinds of things. So all good. So we're going to be on the other side of the mic. So it's been a lot of fun, and everybody out there, just stay positive and keep the faith, and hope that, we're going to get through this. We will if everybody stays positive, follow the rules.
Yeah. Absolutely. Vince, I know I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to join us.
This has been so much fun. Thank you. I'm sorry it's ending. Thanks a lot. You guys are great.
We want it to be, when this started, a few years back, the idea was just a couple guys sitting around, and, we're not having a drink, but, we're drinking something, but having a drink and talking sports.
A monster.
And then, a monster.
Hey, whatever. Whatever it is. We'll all get together, guys. After it's all said and done, we'll all get together at one of our favorite watering holes, or Kaminsky's, one of my favorite places. It's just, let's just have fun, and everybody just grab grab one of these. This was filled with water, but grab one of these and have a cheer, and whatever it takes. It's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Will and hands. I'll buy the first round.
All right, I'm there. Okay, I'm holding you up to it. Make sure you wear the Eagles shirt. Next time I come, I was actually doing videos today that are going over the USA, so I didn't want to piss off Dallas Cowboy fans. Otherwise, I'd have my Who's Lunch Invisible T-shirt on. So
I love it.
Yes.
Well, there was a Cowboys fan who paid money on this show. There was a Cowboys fan on YouTube who paid money to have his comment shown just so he could try to trash the Eagles. So that's how bad it is for them. They have to pay to try to expose us, and it just they never win. Vince, again, can't thank you enough.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
So
you
much.
guys are great.
Talk to you soon.
I love it. Yeah, you guys are awesome, man. I love it. I'll see you in South Jersey in a couple weeks. All right, keep the faith. Fly Eagles, fly, baby. We're going to
Yes,
go.
sir.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Vince.
All right,
See you.
man.
All
Have a
right,
good
thanks.
one, brother.
Go on it. All right, see you.
Everybody, that was Vince Papale.
That was awesome.
And I had it up there. His website, obviously, you can find it easy, vincepapale.com. And Vince was talking about, the podcast he has coming up with his daughter. I think that's a really cool thing. The other side of stuff. We know people by being athletes, and I think it's really cool to find the other side and hear the other side of, what, like he was saying, like Doug Peterson's wife goes through about from being an NFL head coach's wife. I mean, it's a lot. What are you saying about Gabrielle and Vince? Being the son and daughter of not only a professional athlete, but a guy that a movie was made about, and not just like any movie, a gigantic movie, right? So,
Yeah.
It isn't easy for everybody. Everybody thinks that side of life's, it's all easy because, we're superstars. It's not. There's always the other side of it, that
It's almost
easy, but you know what I mean? So it'll be cool to hear just some great stories.
It's almost like peeling back the celebrity curtain and getting to know the real people. And again, in terms of that celebrity cloud that hangs over people, what is it like on a day-to-day basis to take the everyday things in life and have to work through or counterbalance those things, a thing. I thought it was he was talking about it, the different types of people. And obviously, he's talking about having Mark on. He's talking about having Doug and or his wife on. He's talking about having military veterans on.
Man, it's probably so surreal
awesome
for him to this day. Like, it has to be. Everything seems still so surreal to him. Like when he talks, you know what I mean? It's so cool to hear. And probably him saying Mark Wahlberg and having Mark Wahlberg on is probably still surreal for him.
I'm sure.
I know saying his daughter, his daughter is probably around, has met a bunch of athletes, and obviously his son has, but just to have a guy like Mark Wahlberg is going to come on. That's all. Hey, Mark, you know what I mean? That's just cool. That's got to be just amazing to do. And what better, like he said, what better guy to have a guy make, produce a movie and direct a movie, than Mark Wahlberg, if I had a pick. If I want something like that. Now, if I want funny, I'll go like Will Ferrell. But I want a great movie. Man, Mark lives up to it every time.
Some of the stories that he talked about where, some of the scenes that they had to take some liberties for certain reasons, one way or the other, but kind of capturing the essence of the actual moment. And then hear the actual stories. But honestly, guys, my takeaway from the whole thing there is that never once, he's still a neighborhood guy. He's still the neighborhood guy. It's a conversation that you have. It wasn't even an interview, guys. It was just having a conversation.
Simple conversation. Yeah.
It's the same thing that happened Sunday. We had two South Jersey guys on. You get South Jersey guys in the house, or Philly guys, local guys. Is what happens. Same thing with Gallen and Smeltzer on Sunday. Spent an hour with us, them guys too, and we just sat here and we just mucked it up. And the same thing. And then when I asked them the poll question, that was the point. If you didn't know, he's just like us when it comes to the Eagles. Now you do. And the answer was like, of course, they go to playoffs every year. You know what I mean? And it's like the thing we always. Preseason we could be the worst team and be like, we're winning 10. We're going to sneak in. And that fandom.
He said, I'm never not going to pick them to go to the playoffs. I love it.
We're not. So,
and I'm holding them to that drink at PJ Willihan's.
Oh, absolutely. So, boys, obviously we got another show tonight, 8:00, and we'll continue the Eagles conversation. We're gonna have a little QB draft coming up, a little live QB draft with about 6 of us tonight. So that'll be a lot of fun. 8:00, Birds of a Feather, right here, A2D Radio. Like, subscribe, follow, the whole deal. Boys, great interview at all you boys. Jake, I didn't even know you were coming on with us. So that's fun. On the fly, let's go, baby. I love it. Right. So the more the merrier. I can't thank Vince Papale enough. And not only Vince Papale, take a moment to thank all these guests. The sports hands had Mr. Maruck. I'm not going to say his last name right, but I'm not good with hockey names. You guys know this. But, and all these guys, from the guys on Sunday that joined us to the list of guys who've been jumping on and spending some time with us. You know, I can't thank him enough, and I know you guys as well can't thank him enough. So thanks again for Vince for taking, you know, I'd say a few minutes. It took an hour. So
Give us an hour, yeah.
can't thank him enough for an hour. VincePapale.com is where you can find him. Boys, anything else before I wrap this one up?
Keep your eye out for.
No, my internet
Gabby.
sucks.
Like that. I love because you,
Oh man.
you sent
That
me a
internet
question.
sucks.
Like it got to the point where Steve had to send me a question for him. I love it. Like, I don't know if we can see you or hear you. Like one point you're like stuck here.
Yeah, you were like frozen for a second. Check
And
look
all the
for that
people out there, I
podcast.
want them to know something. All the comments that come in, okay, when we have these interviews, realize something. If we don't get to them or don't read them, the guy who's on the interview can see all your comments.
Mhm.
Okay, so I know Vince went back and answered one for us. So you know they're all there. So feel free, you know, every time, you know, with interviews, even if because we're so focused on the interview, we may not get to the comment. Understand that, you know, the people that are getting interviewed, they can see them, they can read them. So you know that when you're chiming in. So keep them coming, and you help us sometimes too when we're, you know, you might come up with a great one. And there was a lot of great questions today. So thank you everybody for joining us. Kerm, do you have something else?
Just that podcast sounds awesome, guys. So keep an eye out for it. Gabbing with Invincible.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
excited for it. Just make sure you guys look for it and check it out.
We'll make sure we get that up, you know, somewhere on our socials when that happens as well. And you know, have that beer with Vince and everybody at DJ's. I know Greg's already there. So for Tom, Jake Friel, Steve Reichel, Michael Chromiak. Stay tuned tonight, 8:00, Birds of a Feather, right here only on A2D Radio. And Wednesday, I know the fix AM and the PM will probably be like a 7:30, 8:00, so around the same time. And then obviously you got the boys on Lazy Booking right down there, and the boys on the Happy Hour Thursday. So stay tuned, family. Great show. Thank you to our doc, make him yours, Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, Burlington, Cherry Hill, Princeton locations. Find them on the web, specializedphysicaltherapy.com, and as well, Ambuck Services, AMBUCK Services.com. 20% off. Tell them the boys from A2D sent you. Gutters, gutter guard, gutter installations, anything outside, they got you covered. If you want your gear, there's a link right in the description on Facebook. There's the merch link. Philly Drinkers, they have their own A2D site up there for you. Over like 40 products. Giddy up. Let's go. I mean, the list goes on, man. You ready for baseball season? Hold on. Let me give you a little something. You ready for baseball season? We got a little Phillies, right? You just want the whole caboodle. You want the whole caboodle? We go here, right? You want the whole caboodle? We go there. Hold on. We ain't done yet. You want a little snapback piece? That's how you sell. This is how you sell. You want a little snapback piece? That's not straight.
How you gonna do it?
Not straight.
Yo, and the
wishes,
and on,
glove, definitely not straight, but whatever. Great lid.
And honestly, guys, the quality of the stuff is so freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so comfortable. It's so good. It doesn't really shrink up too much in terms of that. It's great.
And I'm a dry fit guy. Like this is dry fit. This one. This is an older shirt, but I'm a dry fit guy. But I put the Sixers one on I had, which is awesome because the Sixers one has the no notes right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Really cool one. I put that on the other day. Like you said, fits great. It's not like, you know, I'm such a dry fit guy that I forget how sometimes cotton and other things feel. So spoiled bitch. So, so stay tuned tonight. Hopefully I don't have to say more than like 10 words, which are my draft picks. Talked out here. Just kidding. That's a phenomenal shirt.
No, you're not. You lying. You ain't talking out.
I ain't talked. I didn't even drink my bang yet today. I'm saving it.
I'll be there with you tonight, Dad. So
specifically for the show, I haven't had this canned Monster in forever. So, like Vince said, rally around each other, baby. First of all, I need baseball back ASAP. The players better sign this stinking deal because guess what? About 98% of them aren't guaranteed money if the season don't happen. So, real quick newsflash to people: the MLBPA, they are signing that deal. You bet they're signing that deal. I don't care if they're not people are not gonna make as much as they made. Well, because it's a shortened season, of course they're not. But nobody's gonna go without money. That deal's being signed. You can book it. Book it. 24 hours. That deal signed, and Major League Baseball gets rolling middle of June, spring training. You heard it here first. Done deal. Done. There's the link as well if you need it. All right. Plug time.
Yo, that QB Factory shirt that they just dropped, by the way,
It looks
is fire.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
It looks phenomenal.
It is phenomenal.
Obviously,
Oh, wait
25%
I
off
can't wait to see the next one.
is when you use the code A2D.
Look at Jake growing up right in front of you. Use the link A2. I mean, use the code A2D, 25% off that QB Factory shirt. All right, boys. We out. Great show. Now it's got to hit end. And it makes you hit it twice, which I'm not.